Hello, pen friends. Welcome to another pen review video. And this little yellow box with the V on it here should tell you that we are going to be taking another look at Visconti today. Now, I have a long and storied past with the Italian maker Visconti. Visconti was among the very first luxury pens I purchased. They were instantly one of the brands that caught my attention when I first got into this hobby. The very first Visconti I bought was a Van Gogh, followed very shortly thereafter by a Salvador Dali, followed by the Homo sapiens, followed by the Divina. I have probably reviewed more Viscontis than any other single brand, is my guess. I haven't done the check. I used to keep an eagle eye out for new Viscontis, new limited editions, old limited editions, etc. Really wanted to get to know the brand. I liked a lot of my early Viscontis, and I had a lot of good luck with them early on. My opinion has kind of, for lack of a better term, soured over the years, though, as I have been hit with a lot of quality control problems. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in this video because today's pen, the Visconti Divina Proporzione, is a pen that I both love and infuriates me to no end. And so I'm excited to show it to you today. I'm excited to talk you through this beautiful pen and explain a little bit why my feelings toward this Italian manufacturer have changed over the last few years. So let's dive into it to start off with. So as you can tell, this is a gigantic honking box for a pen. It's a really big box, and I'll show you why in just a second. But I did want to point something out to you. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it here. They don't put this on the box anymore, but I noticed this, art for art's sake. That's an interesting thought, and one that I think perhaps better than any other I've ever heard kind of explains Visconti's philosophy of this era. This is one of their earlier pens. This was from before I got into the hobby. It's the very first Divina that they ever came out with. I believe it was 2007-ish, right about that time. That's about the time I moved from Utah to Seattle. And it's, as I have gotten to know Visconti's pens more and more, I have realized that they are very heavily invested in the art of the pen, not the function of a pen. I think that is why you've gotten pens from them in the past that are beautiful to behold, over the top, sometimes garish, but very deliberately designed, and they don't write. Because I think the company does not care about building writing experiences. They care about building art pieces. While the pens may look good, they don't write very well, at least not out of the box. Speaking of the box, I'm going to reach down here because it's out of the way. The box comes in this lovely dark blue fabric, and then you remove the fabric to reveal this beautiful wooden, highly glossed box. Again, you've got the art for art's sake kind of written right there. And inside you get this. Now, it's going to be hard for me to show this on the video. So let me, I'll try to zoom it around a little bit, and then I'm going to push the microphone out of the way, and then I'll cut some photos in where I can. So this is right here, the Divina Proporzione. I'm going to pull the pen out for a second and just show you the box. So it comes in this very lovely box. It's got these, kind of calipers here that are set to the divine proportion, 1.618. And this is a proportion that is found all over in nature. And, the one that you always see used as an example is the nautilus shell. Now, I'm not a math person by any stretch of the imagination. I can't tell you how it works, just that this ratio, the golden ratio or the golden proportion, appears all over the place in nature. There's something about it that is very appealing to the human eye and to the human aesthetic, and it is what the basis of this pen was supposed to be designed around. So here is the pen. Now, if you've seen my review of the Divina Elegance in blue, you'll notice that there's a lot of similarity between that pen and this pen. This is the predecessor pen, and it's made out of a very lovely burl wood celluloid. So the celluloid looks like wood. It's inlaid with these strands of sterling silver that are kind of inlaid into channels that are cut along it. It's a 5-sided pen, and the facets twist along the length of the pen. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous pen. I actually like this even better than my Blue Elegance. I love burled wood. I love natural wood, and I love the way that this celluloid has been manufactured to look as though this whole pen was made from wood. It's got the safety hook and latch closure system on the cap. It's got the standard Visconti bridge clip, which you either like or loathe. There's not a lot of in between. One of the things that makes this one different is there's a little ink window here, and you can see the ink window even when the pen is capped. That's not a standard experience on any of the Divinas I have seen besides this one. Under the cap, you've got a tapering section or a concave section, and you've got, quite unusually, a brown plastic feed. Now, this feed looks like a Jowo-made feed. It does not look like a Bock-made feed, but I don't know for sure. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying the feed looks different than what I normally see from Bock. What's interesting is that this is one of the Viscontis that came out when they were still using 18 karat gold instead of 23 karat palladium. So this is an 18 karat gold nib. It's a medium, which is, as we know, my nib gauge of choice. It's a pretty standard shaped nib. It does have the crescent moon breather hole and the Visconti kind of fleur-de-lis motif around the face. I will say that unlike on my Homo sapiens Bronze Age, the gold masking was done very well, and so the gold and the platinum plating or palladium plating is very clean edged and quite lovely. Now, this has an unusual filling system to it. It is called the oh goodness. Trying to remember or read it. It is called the push and pull touchdown. And I'm going to cut in a little bit of B-roll here to show you how the system works. The pen is inked right now, so I don't want to do it right now. But essentially, you push down on the back of the pen and it pops out. You then pull this out, stick the nib tip in the ink, and push. There's a little plunger in here. You push it all the way down. It's very much like a vacuum filler, like a Pilot Custom 823 or a TWSBI VAC 700, except the mechanism is hidden. So you don't get to see the ink filling in. You only get to see it through the ink channel here to make sure it has filled. Beautiful pen. Obviously, from the case, you can tell this was a limited edition. It came in 1,618 pieces, 1.618 being the divine proportion. And this is number 481. The pen was beautiful when I got it, but within using it once, basically pulling it out of the pen case, one of the little silver inlays on here started peeling away from the pen. It was not something I wanted to try to repair myself, considering how much money I'd spent on this pen, so I sent it back to Coles of London, based in the United States. They charged me, I want to say $50 or something like that, to send the pen back to Italy. It was gone for a few months. They fixed it and sent it back to me. There was also a pretty hefty issue with the nib, as in it would not write at all. The nib slit was essentially parallel, never came together at the tip. It was kind of the traditional really bad nib adjustment on the Visconti pen. This is a very common problem with Viscontis. And when I sent it back to Visconti, now this is an old pen. It was, at the time I sent it back, a decade old. I said, this does not write, when I sent it back to them. And the response I got from Coles of London is, we don't do nib work. We'll send it off to get it repaired, but we don't do nib work. If you want the nib work done, you're going to have to take it to a nibmeister. The fact that neither the factory nor the distributor does any work on nibs leads me to believe that that is why all of their nibs have so many problems to begin with, which is they don't care about their nibs. They don't care about putting them right. They don't care about making sure that the pen is correctly adjusted and ready to go, because they're not building writing instruments. They're building art pieces, like I mentioned before. So to get a pen that, and this had not been inked before I used it. I was the first one to ink it, even though it was 10 years old. To get a pen that would not write, and I don't mean like it wouldn't write at all, it wouldn't write well, it would not write. I could not get ink on the paper unless I dipped the nib and kept the feed super saturated. I was pretty unhappy about that. As much as I love this pen, and I love this pen, I am just not willing to deal with a company making writing instruments that won't write. And so, unfortunately, this will be the last Visconti I ever buy. I did end up taking, just FYI, I did end up taking the pen to my nibmeister of choice, Mike Masayama. He adjusted the nib to get it writing, and it's a wonderful writer now, and it's a beautiful pen. Visconti did a beautiful job fixing the silver inlay, and I haven't had any problems with the pen since. I feel the need to call that out because it is a very unfortunate experience to have happen with a pen this expensive. So now I've talked a long time and I haven't even written with the pen yet. So let's go ahead and do some measurements and comparisons, and then I'm going to show you how this thing writes now that it's been fixed. So I didn't pull this pen out and record a video of the pen before I had gotten it adjusted for a couple reasons. One, I just wanted to get the pen off for repair to Visconti in Italy, and I didn't I didn't know until the pen came back that they weren't going to repair the nib for me. The other reason I didn't is that when it did come back, it was about 2 weeks away from the San Francisco Pen Show in 2017, and I decided I wanted to take this pen to San Francisco with me to have Mike Masayama work on it. So I didn't get a chance to do a video before I went, and so when I was in San Fran, Mike worked on the pen and never got to record it. But essentially, it would hard start all the time. A lot of times I couldn't get the ink to flow at all. Now, Mike worked on the pen and in true Mike fashion did a phenomenal job. It's a wonderful writer. It is, per my request, a pretty wet, but not overly so, ink flow. It's a slightly wider nib, very smooth, and I haven't had any ink starvation issues. It really is a lovely pen. It's a fairly soft 18. It's a nice bouncy nib. I often say with 18 karat gold nibs, I don't push them to find out what the line variation is because that's not what they were made for. But it's got a nice bounce to it, and it's very comfortable in the hand as well. So I much prefer these 18 karat gold Visconti nibs to the 23 karat palladium nibs. They feel springy, whereas the 23 karat palladium nibs feel kind of spongy and soft. Not in a good, like, flexy way, in a kind of a sloppy, soft way. Palladium is quite a bit less expensive than gold. I don't know, I can't imagine that the per nib unit cost is that much different, and especially considering how much money Visconti charges for these pens, I would certainly rather spend another $25 or $50 for a well-adjusted gold nib than I would for another 23 karat palladium Dream Touch nib. I've had some good Dream Touch nibs, don't get me wrong, but I prefer this 18 karat gold nib by a pretty substantial margin. For reverse writing, it's quite scratchy. It's not great, but it is a very extra fine nib, or extra fine line. It flows, but it's much drier and not anywhere near as pleasant to write with. Really lovely writing experience now. Comfortable in the hand with a lot of weight. This is a hefty pen, and the filling mechanism will give you a little bit more oomph, but it's really unfortunate. It's unfortunate that Visconti can't make pens that write. If they did that, I would be probably the biggest Visconti fan in the world. I'm glad I found the ones I have. I love them, but I'm just not going to buy anymore. It's not worth it to me. So one of the things I get asked when I do reviews of pens like this is, why would you even bother reviewing something like this? It's not available. You can't find it. It's super expensive. No one wants this. And I get that complaint. I do them for a couple reasons. One, because they're the pens I have in my collection, and they're pens that I like and I want to share. And because I think there's a fair argument to be made for having the information out there and available. So if someone does happen to come across one of these, whether it be on eBay or at a pen show or in someone's, inheritance somewhere, they can look it up and figure out what it is and if it's valuable or not. And so that's another reason why. This particular pen was exceptionally expensive, as I've mentioned. I believe I paid about $1,200 for this pen, which is kind of, I don't know why that has become kind of my upper limit that I'm ever willing to spend on a pen. But it is up there. It's, I think a large chunk of that cost was a case like this. They probably could have knocked $200 or $300 off the price of the pen by just putting in a standard Visconti box. But they were interested about making art for art's sake, not for a writing instrument's sake. So would I spend this money again to get this particular pen? I don't think so. I don't think it was worth it to me, especially considering the problems I had with it. Am I glad I have the pen? Yes. Am I going to be getting rid of the pen? Probably not. I really like this pen, and I like my Divina Blue Elegance. They're both really lovely pens, and both I think will have a long-term place in my collection. I don't think I could convince myself, if I came across another one of these, uninked, brand new in the box, I don't think I could bring myself to pay that kind of money again. So, yeah. So that's kind of where things stand. So that's going to do it for this kind of overview / review of the Visconti Divina Proporzione, the 2007-ish release of the very first Divina from the Italian manufacturer Visconti. If you have questions or comments, you've had similar or different experiences with Visconti, please don't hesitate to leave your experiences in the comments and or over on penhabit.com in the comments section there. Head over to penhabit.com for the additional photos, including some better photos of the case, which is hard to do in the video setup I've got here. And of course, you can check out the Inky Fingers notebook selection over there, or maybe if I have any pens up for sale. So thank you so much for watching, for being here, and we will see you soon for another review video. Take care.